Welcome back to the Twedt Show Podcast. As always, I am your host, Chanler Twedt. On today's episode, we're going to talk about college football since week one has arrived. Tonight, as of right now of this recording, is Thursday at 9:40. And tonight we have two notable games. I think I saw one tweet. There was actually going to be like 17 college football games tonight, which is crazy. But there's only going to be like two that probably most people are going to watch unless you're team is playing tonight, then you're gonna probably watch your team. But two, like if your team's not playing tonight, you're most likely gonna watch these two games: Boise State versus South Florida and Nebraska versus Cincinnati, which that game is a neutral site game at Kansas City and Arrowhead Stadium, home of the Chiefs. So I think those are going to be two fun games to watch. I don't know what the outcomes are going to be. Let's look up the point spread of those games real quick. Let's see. Yeah, no, as of right now of this recording, Nebraska is 6.5 point favorites against Cincinnati. And the over-under is 52.5 points. If you're curious about the Boise State one, it's at 61.5 points. So, yeah, so I think basically this episode's just going to be talking about week one games a little bit, and I'll do sort of a conference breakdown of each of the Power Four because I'm not going to really break down all the conferences because I don't really know much about the other small conferences that much. So I think most people are just going to want to hear like the main Power Four and maybe talk about Boise State. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to talk about Boise State. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I will maybe do a my college football playoff predictions right off the bat. Let's see how bad I am at this because I'm going to have to name like 12 teams that are going to make the college football playoffs, and one of them having to be Boise State. So with that all being said, we'll get started with today's episode. All right, so first things first, I think we'll do the notable games. We'll talk about most of the big matchups that are going to happen here in week one. So we'll start with today's games. So today's games, I haven't really done a whole lot. I should have done a little bit more prep to this, but I've been too busy with work and all that. But I'm just going to go based off what they did last year, what I know, and vibes. So those are just going to be based on everything I know. Okay, so the Boise State, South Florida, all I know is that obviously Boise State got to the playoffs last year. They had the best player, or one of the best players in college football, and Ashton Jeanty, who got drafted by the Raiders, and now he's off in the NFL, so they don't have him. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I know who the quarterback is. I'm pretty sure his name's like Matt or something like that. He's blonde. He's got long blonde hair. I know him. I know the coach. I can't remember his name, but he's a pretty big religious guy. That's all I know. And I know where Boise, Idaho is. So I know where that is. But otherwise, I mean, I'm not going to know a whole lot about this team. I mean, you know what? Let's look up their over under for win totals. Let's see if I can get a sort of a better vibes off of that. Because let's see. Mountain West. Let's see, what do we got here for Boise State? Boise State is projected to win, at least their over-under is about 9.5 wins. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't really done any depth in their schedule, obviously, because like I said, I don't really know much about Boise State this year besides not having Ashton Jeanty. And I think this will be sort of an intriguing matchup because I'm pretty sure this game's being played at South Florida. So it'll be a good sort of road test-ish for Boise State, having to go across the country from Boise to South Florida, which I believe is in Tampa, which I believe the game is being played at. All I know about South Florida is they have a head coach that used to coach at Iowa State, and he's a pretty offensive-minded guy. So I think there should be points. So expect some points out of tonight's game. Otherwise, I just like if you want to just have some fun and put some money on it, just take the over. Why not? Always got to root for the over, right? If you're one of those gamblers out there. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm assuming Boise's going to be one of the teams out there that's going to want to represent the G5 schools in the college football playoffs. Because otherwise, I don't really know a whole lot about. Because it's either going to be Boise State or some school from the American Conference. That's just based off vibes. Like I said, it should be kind of a fun game to watch, just because you're going to, as the season progresses, you're not going to really watch a whole lot of G5 schools unless you're one of those fans that are, if you're part of the G5 schools or G4s, G5s, whatever you want to call it now. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what the weather's going to be like down there. I'm assuming it's going to be hot. Maybe there might be some rain. I feel like it's always raining sort of in Tampa. But yeah, it should be a fun game. So let's just move on to Nebraska Cincinnati. All right. I think I should know a little bit more about this game than I did the last game where I kind of just rambled for like 4 minutes and not really saying anything. All right. So Nebraska versus Cincinnati. What I know is that Matt Rhule, this is his year 3, and I believe there's like based on his track records in college, year 3 is sort of where they take the jump and they get to like really good to be like really good teams to really great and something like that from his time at Temple where they had a really bad year, then they had a solid year, and then they had a really great year, and that's how he got the Baylor job. And Baylor was not good, but then he got to be good the second year. And the year 3, that's when I think they won the Big 12 title his third year. And now this is obviously year 3 for Nebraska. Obviously, he's going to have a little tougher task to win a Big 10 title. I mean, he could definitely, if he, they're actually, Nebraska's schedule is actually pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Not easy, but it's fairly manageable to like get some wins under the belt pretty easily. Obviously, tonight's going to be a bit hard to get a win because obviously going up against a good Cincinnati team. I do think that Cincinnati is going to be a tough team this year in the Big 12. But I think this should be a pretty interesting matchup because if Nebraska gets past Cincinnati and they get the win today, they got 2 easy cupcakes against, I believe, Akron and some school named like Houston Baptist or something like that. And then they'll have Michigan. That's their first conference game. If they get past Michigan, I think their schedule opens up to really help them for success this year. Let me just pull it up real quick. I passed it. Let's see, Nebraska. Here it is. So, like I said, if they get past Michigan, which that game is at home, if they get past them, they're 4-0. Then they have Michigan State, which I think should be a win, which I think could be a win for sure. And then they have Maryland. I think that's a win. Minnesota should be a win. And then Northwestern should be a win. Which makes them about what? So 4, 5, 6. So I think they're about going to be like 7-0 once they get to USC, which that game should be in home. The crowd will be rucking. The environment will be crazy and all that. So I think that could be a win, but I might give them a loss there just because they're going to bite themselves into the hype and all that, and they're going to lose to USC. But they got to go to UCLA, which I think should be a win. So I think they'll be okay there. But they have to go to Penn State. That's a loss. So at minimum, they're going to be like 10-2 or 9-3 at the most. But yeah, I think because they have, obviously they have Dylan Raiola, the 5-star quarterback that came out of high school like 2 years ago. He's back. He should be slightly better than what he, as I'm assuming he did all the offseason programming to make sure he improves on his game, which I'm expecting he's going to be better than he was last year because obviously all the talent that he has, he's talented enough to keep progressing as a great quarterback. So obviously for Cincinnati, if they get past this one, they got a kind of a tough schedule this year. Just a little bit of tough. Nothing too crazy, but so obviously they have Nebraska tonight. If they get past Nebraska, then they'll have Bowling Green and Northwestern State. Those should be 2 wins, so that's 3-0 if you get past Nebraska. Then they got to go to at Kansas, which isn't going to be tough, which isn't going to be easy because they got the new stadium, which is partially like half built, and the other side because like the home side looks great, and then the visitor side just looks like they kind of just half did it. Which I watched the game on the week 0 game, and I heard the AD said that the half stadium's not actually like ready, but they got most of it done. So then they go to at Iowa State, or no, they're home for Iowa State. Correction, they're home for Iowa State, and then they're home for UCF, which should be a win. And they're at Oklahoma State, which should be a win. And they're home for Baylor, because I think really some of their tougher games are going to be at least at home for sure. Obviously, they get Iowa State home, they get Baylor home, they get Arizona and BYU home. Maybe not Arizona as much, but BYU at least. And I think only their toughest games on the road are going to be like at TCU and at Kansas for sure. So I think Cincinnati might be in a good position here to really make some noise in the Big 12 race for sure. Because they got a good quarterback. I really like the quarterback that they have. I think he's pretty solid. I can't remember his name, but I can't think of his name. It's like Brandon something, something like that.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
We break into your scheduled program to recap the Nebraska and some of the Nebraska game and some of the other college football games just a little bit. I was originally not going to really break down the game because obviously the game already happened as you're listening, but I did for some reason. I kind of just, my brain turned off and I just started breaking down the game a little bit, even though I don't really remember what I even said. So anyways, let's recap the Nebraska-Cincinnati game. So it was kind of a bit of a okay game. There wasn't a whole lot of offense really in the first half because I think the halftime score was either 6-3 or 9-3 or something in that ballpark. Let's see, what was the halftime score? The halftime score was was it 13? Oh, shit, it was a touchdown. There you go. Never mind, it was 13-3 at halftime, and Cincinnati kind of roared back into the game to sort of make it competitive. Nebraska nearly choked it like they always did, but this time they didn't choke. Dylan Rhule had a pretty, there was for a little bit, I was like, Rhule is doing well, but he's not doing like he's not like, I wanted a little bit more from him, but like if I like actually rewatched the game, like I felt like the second half he gave me more than I wanted, which was great. But I think he actually played pretty well for the most part. And for the Cincinnati Bearcat guy, yikes. Look, I think the quarterback's fine. I do. I think he's okay. But the wide receivers, on the other hand, that's going to be a problem this season. That's going to be a bit of a problem. I like the defense. The defense played hard. They got the stops they needed for Cincinnati, but it's just the offense is going to have to like kind of pick it up, and they're going to have to like, because the Cincinnati's quarterback only threw for like 69 yards. 69 yards. I feel like that's pretty hard to do in today's college football. Only throwing for 69 yards. You were 13-25, and you threw the game-losing interception at the very end. I mean, that's bad. That's bad. I mean, you ran for 200 yards. I mean, he did run for like 96 yards rushing, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a good runner. Maybe not as good as passing, but maybe he'll improve as the season progresses on. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to really make of Nebraska. I can't remember. I don't even have the sheet with me. But if I had Nebraska in the playoffs, I definitely don't. I don't want them in the playoffs now because I don't think. Look, oh gosh, how do I want to phrase this? How do I want to phrase this? I think they're good. I think they're going to be a good team. They're going to be a competitive team in the Big Ten. I think they're going to make some noise. I don't think as of right now, the playoffs, this is week 1. I hate overreacting on week 1s with college football and NFL. But what if I saw from this week 1 performance is like, Nebraska's got some more work to do, I feel like, because they were close to doing the same old Nebraska and blowing this game like they've done in the past. So I don't know what to really make of it. I'm going to have to see a little bit more from Nebraska. Obviously, the next 2 games aren't going to really show us the real Nebraska, but they could be good. I feel like in the tiers that I had them in, they're going to be they're good, but they could be really good. And they're just at the good tier right now. They're a good team. They're nothing less. They're nothing more. They're just good. They're a good team. Dylan Raiola will maybe start making the plays that I was sort of expecting him to make. And I think he did well. He didn't like do anything crazy, even though he did have the one fumble, but he recovered it and got it back. And then he nearly threw an interception that could have been a pick 6. But otherwise, I thought he played a pretty clean-ish game. Otherwise, because he was 33 for 42 for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, and the running back had a pretty solid game. I mean, Nebraska was actually like pretty balanced. What was the running back for them? Number 21, Emmett Johnson, 25 carries for 108 yards. Nebraska was pretty balanced. I mean, if they sort of play like this, if they're like pretty balanced on offense, and they're going to be, because I think their D line was actually like pretty well. There's like because they kind of distract or kind of gave some pressure up the middle on Cincinnati for sure. But also, like I can't remember why this game was being played at Arrowhead, but like I know it was technically supposed to be in Cincinnati home game, but that was definitely a home game for Nebraska. I mean, I don't know who at Cincinnati thought it was a good idea to put that game in Kansas City. Smart thinking. Smart thinking. If you wanted a home game, like I get it that maybe they probably did just because of Travis, but like if you're gonna do this,
type of thing with Nebraska. Don't put it so close to Lincoln where Nebraska fans can travel to Kansas City, because it's literally like, I looked it up, it's like 3 hours away from Lincoln. So, I mean, yeah, I feel like you kind of fumbled the ball a little bit, but they only lost by 3. So I don't really know what to make of Cincinnati. I feel like they're probably just going to be, I think I had them in the good team. They could be a good team, but maybe put them a peg lower to just a more of a mid. I think they're mid. Like, they could definitely run the ball, and I think I like their defense. If they could somehow get the passing game going, maybe they'll get back up to the good teams. Let's just do a quick whip around of the college football landscapes. Obviously, Boise State got their butts whooped by South Florida. And let's see. So as of right now of this recording, San Diego State's up 35-0 Stony Brooks with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. South Florida beats Boise State, 25th ranked to be exact. Boise State 34-7. Bowling Green beat Lafayette 26-7. Rutgers beat Ohio 34-31. Delaware beat Delaware State 35-17. NC State beat East Carolina 24-17. UCF beat Jacksonville State 17-10. And Wyoming beat Akron 10-0. Missouri beat Central Arkansas 61. Beat UT Martin 27-7. Minnesota beat Buffalo 23-10. Houston beat SFA Stephen F. Austin, or Stephen A. Austin, or I don't know. But either way, SFA 27-0. And the UAB beat, wow, this was a high-scoring game. UAB defeated Alabama State 52. Then you got Wisconsin. I think I was good. I'm going to be right about Wisconsin. They're not going to be very good. Well, especially now with their original starter who got hurt today. We don't know how serious it is yet, but I don't think they're going to be any good. And then finally, Nebraska beats Cincinnati 20-17. So yeah, that's pretty much your quick recap of week 1 of Thursday night games. Now let's send you back to your regular scheduled programming.
But yeah, should be some fun games for sure on Thursday. Obviously, there's plenty of other games to watch if you're one of those teams. If you're a North Carolina State fan, you're playing tonight. If you're a UCF fan, you're playing tonight. Missouri fans, Duke fans, OK State fans, Houston, Minnesota fans, Wisconsin fans, you name them. And then the Friday games, there's about 2 other notable ones. There's more, but these are just the notable ones. You got Auburn versus Baylor. Now, with Auburn versus Baylor, obviously Auburn coming off a not great, but okay year. Obviously, they went 5-7. They didn't make a bowl game, but I feel like they sort of improved on what I feel like they're at least going in sort of in the right direction, even though their fans might not think it. But like outside the Auburn world, I feel like they'd be okay. They should be okay, even though some people may not like their head coach, which is perfectly fine. Auburn fans are sometimes delusional, which is perfectly fine. Most fan bases have some delusional fans out there. Let's see, because as for Baylor, I mean, they're going to have a pretty solid year this year. The quarterback is also going to be very good. The Big 12's got a lot of good quarterbacks. I mean, there's at least 8 to 9 really good good quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year for sure. I'm pretty sure Auburn's like a 2-point favorite against Baylor, even though it's at Baylor. I think Baylor's probably going to win that game. In all honesty, I think Baylor's the slightly better team because I don't really trust Arnold Jackson all that much, and I don't think Hugh Freeze does either. But I think he does, but he doesn't because there was as the season kind of ramping up, I kind of listened to some of these college football shows a little bit just to sort of get in the mindset of who when I'm watching these games, when I know who these players are and stuff like that. And one of them made a comment last week or 2 weeks ago when Hugh Freeze had some kind of press conference or talked to the media or something like that. And they asked a question about, are you going to play all 3 quarterbacks? He said, yep. Some of the media people were like, why are you playing all 3 quarterbacks against Baylor? Why wouldn't you just play Jackson Arnold? So you don't have confidence in your quarterback again, which I feel like was an issue last year. with Auburn. So, yeah. As for the other game, which is going to be happening about the same time as the Baylor versus Auburn game. They're both happening around 7 o'clock, but there's on 2 different networks. You got Georgia Tech versus Colorado, which is going to be another fun game to watch for sure. Georgia Tech's favored by 4.5 points. Obviously, this is Deion's third year at Colorado. And obviously, he won't have his son Shedeur as his quarterback or Travis Hunter as his best player. When you lose sort of your 2 best players, it's going to be hard to, replicate the talent that you did. I should say talent, but the success that you had last year when you lose those 2 players for sure. And then I feel like the receiver talent they all went to the NFL too. All the receivers they had last year are also in the NFL because I think Jimmy Horn Jr. is in with the Panthers, and there's another wide receiver. I think he's on the Ravens, but I don't know if they actually made the teams. I just know they're on those. They were on those squads at the time. But I feel like Colorado's going to sort of take a slight step back, but maybe not. I don't know. They could be good. I don't really know much about Colorado this year besides the 2 quarterbacks that they have. They have the one transfer they got from Liberty, and they got a 5-star freshman that they have as their backup. Maybe they could be okay. Maybe they'll be good. I'm not for sure. I'm not going to speculate too much on what I'm expecting from Colorado because I just don't know what to expect from Colorado this year. I think their win total is about 5 wins, something like that. So they're going to be hovering around that bowl game, I feel like they're going to hover around between either they're going to win 5 or 7 games this year. Nothing less, nothing more. They're just going to be okay. As for Georgia Tech, I think who's their quarterback? It's is it Haynes King? Yeah, Haynes King. I'm pretty sure he's still the quarterback this year, right? Is he still the quarterback? Pretty sure he's still the quarterback, right? Right? Am I tripping? Yes, Haynes King still the quarterback at Georgia Tech. And then the running back, who was the running back last year? Is it Jamal Hines? I think that's him, right? I think that sounds about right. Yes, okay. Those 2 were just amazing last year. Because when I watched the Georgia game last year, which went to into 6 overtimes, which is kind of crazy. But I'm kind of liking this Georgia team to kind of make some noise in the ACC. Even though the ACC is not going to be very good this year, but they might make some noise. They might give Clemson or Miami a bit of a run for their money. Just see if they make some noise and maybe be one of those teams that kind of come out of nowhere. Maybe they're in week 10. They're sort of in the playoff hunt. They're like, "Ooh, we're right there. We're just a game back from Miami or something like that. They got 1 loss in the ACC. What their schedule looking like? What's the schedule looking like this year? Okay, wow. Okay, so after we get done with Colorado and Gardner-Webb, their first conference game is against Clemson, and luckily that game's at home, so that might be a good advantage for them. Because otherwise, they got a pretty easy schedule. Because like I said, I think the ACC is not going to be very good this year. Because they got Wake Forest, Virginia Tech's mid, Duke's mid, Syracuse is mid. NC State's not going to be good, I don't think. If they're not, they're also just going to be mid. Boston College is mid/bad. Pitt, I have no idea. Maybe they might be good. Might be mid, too. But there's definitely a lot of winnable games. Let's keep our eyes on the Yellow Jackets for sure. All right. As for Saturday, the big games. Saturday, what do we got for Saturday? We got. I'll save the sort of the big one with Ohio State, Texas at last. Well, first I'll start with LSU Clemson, which is going to be a fun game. There's 4 really good games on Saturday for sure. So we got not Florida State. I was going to say Florida State, but LSU Clemson, which should be a fun game to watch. Who's favored in that game? Who is favored in that game? Let's see. Who is favored in that game? We got Clemson favored by 3.5 points as of right now. So, interesting. All right. I just know from Clemson's side of things, they obviously won the ACC last year, and they got kind of their butts whooped by Texas last year. But I feel from what I heard and sort of read, that they actually brought in actual transfer portal players, which Dabo Swinney wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of using the transfer portal to get players, but now he actually started to use it. And actually have a really good team this year. And some people are really buying into the hype of the Clemson Tigers, and they're like, oh, watch out for Clemson. I think they're gonna have a really good team this year. They might win it all. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Obviously, they got Cade Klubnik and Dabo Swinney. That's the only two people that I know so far at Clemson. Obviously, as the season progresses, I will maybe start learning some of these other players' names. But that's the only two people I know as of right now on Clemson. And also, a lot of people are kind of high on LSU as well. So really, the winner of this game is going to have a really good position on how their season's going to look the rest of the year. Because if I feel like LSU probably needs it more than Clemson does, because I feel like if Clemson doesn't win this game, they'll have a better chance of still making the playoffs, even if they lose. Obviously, like I said before, the ACC doesn't have that many good teams. I think Clemson can handle a loss. I think Clemson can probably finish the season 10-2, 11-1, because obviously they're going to play, LSU Tigers. They're going to play South Carolina at the end of the year, and I'm sure they get Notre Dame this year too. Let me look at Clemson's schedule now. I'm curious. Oh man, actually now I'm starting to think Clemson might need it more. Who do they got this year? Oh, they don't get. Wait, for some reason I thought they get Notre Dame this year. Maybe not. Okay, I was wrong. Okay, so really their two tough games this year are just going to be LSU, SMU, and South Carolina. Everybody else they're going to probably beat the crap out of them. So we'll be curious to see on how this game plays out. But let me get to LSU side of things before I transition to the next game here. As for LSU, a lot of people, I feel like, are sort of thinking that Brian Kelly needs to make the playoffs this year for his job's sake. And because I feel like LSU fans are sort of like they're basically every SEC fan thinks that their team needs to make the playoffs for their coach to stay as their head coach. And I feel like teams like LSU, Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia, those four, and maybe even throw in, I guess, Oklahoma and Texas too, that they expect every year to be in the playoffs and compete for national championships. For LSU case, they haven't won the national championship since the 2019 season with Joe Burrow and the crew. They haven't really gone up back to the mountaintop in a while, even though I think they were in the SEC title game with Jaden and Brian Kelly's second or first year, I think. But did they make the play? Did they make that? Did they make? No. Yeah. I think they played Georgia in that game. So yeah. So as for LSU, I'm trying to think who's on LSU roster that I would know. As somebody named Perkins still on the team. I feel like Harold Perkins is still on LSU's team, even though he was on North Dakota State's team in 4 years ago. So maybe I guess it would make sense if it happened 4 years ago. He'd be a redshirt senior or a COVID senior or something like that. One of those terms. So I feel like he's still might be on the team. And then the Garrett Nesmeyer. Yeah, Nesmeyer. I think that's how they pronounce his name. They got the quarterback. And he's projected to be sort of like a top pick in this year's draft. So I'll be kind of curious to see how that all plays out. I honestly don't know who's going to win because obviously the game's being played at Clemson, but I generally don't really know. I'm not gonna state my claim and say that LSU is going to win or Clemson is going to win because I generally do not know. So I feel like I probably should have done a little bit more research on that game, but it's just we're just talking ball. We're just spitfiring. We're just kind of going off of vibes here. All right, let's kind of speed up a little bit here. We got Bama versus Florida State. Florida State's quarterback was talking shit about Alabama one time at a media day session, and Alabama players heard it. So I just feel like Alabama's just going to come in there and kick some ass. I feel like Alabama should be able to sort of bounce back from what they call a down year, even though they won 3 games. Or not. Whoa. I didn't mean they only won 3 games. Well, I caught myself there. They only won 9 games, lost 3. I didn't want Alabama fans coming after me for saying that dumb shit right there. Okay, let's try that again. What they call a down year for them, only winning 9 games and missing the playoffs. But it was also their fault because, one, there was plenty of games where they lost. They probably shouldn't have lost. And there was other games where they won. They probably should have lost. They should have lost to South Carolina. They probably shouldn't have lost to an Oklahoma team that wasn't very good. And they probably shouldn't have lost to who was the other teams they lost to? I mean, they about blew Georgia. What were the other games they lost to? I know they lost to, God, I'm trying to think of all the teams they lost to. They lost to Oklahoma. They lost to, what the hell did they lose to? Oh, they lost to Michigan in the bowl game, but I think that's their fourth loss. But during the regular season, who the hell did they lose to? Oh, Oklahoma. Okay. So they lost to those three, and they were losses where they were kind of like, you probably shouldn't have lost that one. And there was other games they probably should have lost, but they won. So I guess that all matters. All you do is win, and you're in. So, but yeah, I think Alabama should be able to bounce back, have a better year, and be in the playoff conversation once again with Kevin DeBoer's second year in the Alabama. So yeah, it will be interesting to see for sure what Alabama looks like this year. See if Alabama fans are going to stick with Kellen DeBoer or they're going to be pissed as hell and they want him fired immediately. Because as soon as they lose a game they're not supposed to again, they're going to have their pitchforks and start riding the streets and saying, fire him now. So I don't even know what Alabama's schedule looks like. You should probably look that up. Let's look up Alabama's schedule this year. Schedule. Find Alabama here. Alabama. As I'm looking for Alabama's schedule, as for Florida State here, obviously you hope to see if they make improvements from their 2 wins that they won last year, because obviously they were not very good last year. They stunk. They were bad. So bad. So you just hope to see that they're get back to the level of excellence that they have for themselves as a program and all that stuff. And maybe they can compete for an SEC title and get back to the sort of the playoff conversation as well. Let's see. All right, because I'm not really concerned about their non-conference, because they have 2 tough non-conference. If you just look at their names, you're like, oh, they got to play Florida State and Wisconsin. Both those teams aren't necessarily that great, I don't think. But as soon as they get done with Wisconsin, they get to play at Georgia, which is going to be tough. Then they're home for Vanderbilt. Then they're at Missouri, home for Tennessee, at South Carolina, home for LSU, back to Oklahoma once again. Then they're home for Eastern Illinois, which is so dumb. But I'm glad they're finally going to go do the whole 9-conference game. And then they have Auburn to finish the year at Auburn. All right, Utah versus UCLA. I just wrote it down just because I kind of thought it was going to be like a notable game to sort of talk about. There's a lot of people talking about this Utah quarterback, I should say, not the kid, but this Utah quarterback. I can't remember what school he even came from. He either transferred, but he came from somewhere. As for UCLA, they got the Nico kid from Tennessee, that whole thing this past summer about him wanting more money, but not actually getting more money. And then he got upset with Tennessee, and Tennessee got upset with him. And they're like, all right, let's just part ways and let you go somewhere else. So obviously he ended up back, I think, because he's from California. So he's back in his home state and playing for the UCLA Brewers now. Bruins? Yeah, Bruins. I didn't mean to say Brewers, like the Boston Brewers. Is that Brewers? No. Milwaukee Brewers. God, that was bad. Do I even know sports? I mean, I'm starting to think I don't even know sports. I'm starting to think I don't even know ball. Unbelievable. I might just start quitting podcasts if I don't even know what I'm talking about. All right. Should be a fun game. I think it's at UCLA. We'll be curious to see if Nico can sort of get back to some type of where he can play at a high level, because I feel like last year he didn't necessarily play up to the level of his standards, and maybe Josh Heupel's offense wasn't necessarily a fit for him, and whatever offense they're going to run at UCLA maybe will be a better fit for him, and maybe he'll succeed a little bit more at UCLA. But I don't think UCLA is going to be all that great in the Big Ten this year, but it's tough saying. All right, let's talk about the main eventer, even though this will literally be the first game of Saturday. They got Texas versus Ohio State, as the Buckeyes play the Texas Longhorns in Columbus, 1 versus 3. And also some noteworthy stuff for this game. This is Lee Corso's last college game day in Columbus. It's going to be very emotional that day, obviously it being Lee's final game day. And shout out Lee Corso. I watched that the little presentation they did for Lee Corso. It was really good. There was some emotional stuff there. I mean, he's just such a gem. I mean, if you don't love Lee Corso, I don't know what's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you, man. Because Lee Corso was so awesome. Obviously, as he got older, the man's like 90 years old. So I'm glad he's going out on top. I'm glad he's having the good send off, and we're sending him off out to the sunset and giving him his flowers as we should. Obviously, he's a staple of college football. Everybody knows who Lee Corso is. If you're a college football fan, you know who Lee Corso is. You woke up every Saturday morning and you turned on ESPN to watch College Game Day, wherever they were at, to watch Lee Corso talking ball, having a little fun, put the headgear on, and all that stuff. And I wasn't old enough to have watched this particular moment, but when the moment where they were at Houston and he was about to do something, and he said, it's a very memorable clip where he just says, fuck it. And he throws this microphone thing and puts on he puts on the Cougar headgear as his pick. And everybody on the set just goes crazy and starts laughing that he just said that out loud on live television, that he said the F word. So that's a funny moment. I mean, there's plenty of moments from College Game Day from Lee, because obviously he's a legend for sure. I think I've been to College Game Day twice. The first time I think he picked Iowa. The second time I think he ended up picking Iowa State, because I know he picked Iowa State at least once. So be fun, because I feel like he's gonna end up picking Ohio State, because that's Brutus is his first love, because that's the first mascot that he put on. As for the headgear and all the picks that he does, yeah, I mean it's gonna be emotional. And throughout the show, they're just gonna show like the best of, and at the very end, I feel like that whole set's just gonna start crying, especially Kurt. Dude. Kurt's just gonna weep and weep and weep, and oh man, that's gonna be a fun one, because like it's less than 3 days from now, or 2 days actually. Yeah, like 72 hours before Lee Corso's last College Game Day, which is crazy to think that after that College Game Day, we won't have any more Lee Corso. It's gonna be an interesting one. I think they'll be okay. Obviously, I think they're gonna have sort of Pat kind of, I wouldn't say fill his role, but I feel like he'll sort of carry on, not necessarily doing the headgear pick, but he'll be the last one, and he'll do, because he likes to do, because he's part of the wrestling community in WWE. He likes to get the crowd involved, and he'll like say something, and he'll get the crowd riled up, and then will pick that school that they're at, or he'll say he's about to pick that school and like do a 180 and be like, ha, psych, I'm picking this school. Because like there's like a good example of him going, or when they were at Georgia for the SEC title game, and he was gonna pick Georgia, and he did some chant of Georgia's, and then at the last second he said, give me Alabama, and the whole place just went crazy that he picked Alabama. So I feel like he's sort of going to fill Lee's role, sort of, in that sense, even though there's no replacing Lee Corso, obviously. And I think they're going to be okay, because I like the crew that they have. I like Pat. I like Nick Saban. It's a little like I shouldn't say like, but I think he does a good job on the show. I think he actually like breaks it down as a football guy, because obviously he's a coach and all that. But obviously he's, I'm sure you can sort of tell he's a bit biased sometimes with the SEC stuff, but that's fine. He understands it. I don't really care if he's biased or not. I mean, if there was someone on the college football or the College Game Day set that was biased towards Big 12, I'd be like, yeah, he's a fucking guy. So, all right, as for the game, let's just transition back to the game here. I got sort of sidetracked with the Lee Corso stuff. I guess Ohio State or Fox, somebody said that Dave Portnoy is not allowed in the stadium. Because, I mean, I would understand if I was an Ohio State person. I'd be like, I don't want Dave Portnoy in our stadium whatsoever. Don't let him near our stadium whatsoever. We don't want him there. Because, one, obviously he's a Michigan fan, and two, he was just going to talk so much shit about Ohio State and Ryan Day, because I think Ryan Day does not like him at all, which I totally understand, because Dave Portnoy is kind of an interesting character, or I shouldn't say character, but a person as itself, just because he talks a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, he talks a lot of shit with him being a Michigan fan, talks shit about the Ohio State fans and all that. He says a lot of wild things sometimes, So I don't know what to believe, what not to believe, who said what. I don't know to believe. I like to think that Ohio State just said, we don't want Dave there just because they're petty and they don't want to deal with the Michigan fan at Ohio State. Like a Michigan fan like him just saying some crazy ass shit. So, all right. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game itself. Texas versus Ohio State. All right. So we got two quarterbacks haven't really played a whole lot. Obviously, we've seen Arch Manning play a little bit. We haven't really seen this freshman quarterback that they have right now. Because I think his name like Julian Sane, something like that. He hasn't played. I think this will be his first start. Which welcome to college football, kid. You get to play number 1 Texas. Man, if I was him, that would suck. Obviously, Ohio State's coming off the national championship game. They're obviously the defending national champions, and you got Texas, who's probably, some people are saying they're the best team in all college football, which I'm not going to disagree with. All right, so we got 2 quarterbacks that are going to sort of be playing sort of their first time being a full-time starter, because Arch was obviously the backup to Quinn Ewers last year, and this Julian kid, I think he's a true freshman who's now going to be the true starter for Ohio State. And obviously these are 2 young quarterbacks, unexperienced. Obviously Arch has got a little bit more experience under his belt, just a little bit. But this is, like I said, this will be his first time being a full-time starter. We'll be curious to see on how Arch does well with the pressure that is with Texas, because they are the number 1 team in college football as of right now. We'll be curious to see how he handles the pressure. Obviously, his last name being Manning, there's a lot of expectations. He's got so much hype with that kid. I mean, I feel bad for the kid. I mean, I shouldn't say I feel bad, but I there's just so much pressure, and I feel like if I was in his position, I would just feel like, holy shit, I just don't want to fuck this up. I really don't. I don't want to, because there's going to be so much pressure with that kid. Because if he even has some type of subpar, not a 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, completing about 65% of his passes, then people are going to be like, this guy stinks. He's projected to be the number 1 pick. He's going to be the next Manning. This kid stinks. I think we can't overreact too much of what we see from Arch Manning in his first game. Good or bad, we can't overreact too much, because I'm sure there's going to be a point. Let's just say he has a sort of a bad game, but not a subpar game. Let's just say, for instance. And then he comes out in the next 3 games and blows everyone away. And then I was like, oh, see? But everyone's going to come back to that Ohio State game and be like, see, he can't play with the big guys. He can't play with the best of the best. So I think we can't overreact too much on Arch performers in week 1. I think we got to give the kid some time before we can really assess if he's going to be a really good quarterback, a Heisman favorite, because I feel like some people are saying, I think Vegas too is saying that he's going to be the Heisman favorite, which I think we got to take a step back and be like, guys, he's just now a full-time starter. Just I get it. He's a Manning. He was a 5-star recruit. He's got all the tools you need to be a quarterback. But let's just pump the brakes just a little bit. I mean, he's going to be a full-time starter now. Let's just see how the kid plays. If he's going to be great, then applause to us for knowing that he was going to be great. No one's going to be shocked. But if he just comes out and just be's okay, then let's just not kill the kid for just being okay. Let's just give the kid a little bit of, breathing and all that. But as for Ohio State, obviously, they're coming off the national championship. Their season last year was so interesting because I feel like they were probably going to be the odds-on favorite to win the national championship last year. But they lost to Oregon during the regular season. And obviously, they lost to their rival Michigan once again in a weird game, which they probably should have not lost, but they did. And the story goes that, as soon as that game was over, everyone was just like, fire Ryan Day. He stinks. Fire him now. In that first round game, all these Tennessee fans came out of nowhere and kind of invade Ohio State's stadium. And there was a lot of orange there, and there wasn't a whole lot of red and or scarlet or whatever their colors are. And obviously, Ohio State kind of just blew the doors off the entire playoff run. They kind of just beat everybody pretty handily. So it'll be curious to see how Ryan Day kind of handles this pressure of being a national champion. Now, this is his first one being a head coach, and now with the pressure of having a freshman quarterback, not getting a whole lot of experience with this quarterback, obviously being a freshman, for being a full-time starter. Obviously, they lose a lot of good players to the NFL, but I feel like obviously they retain a lot of good players and developed also enough talent, I'm sure, with enough 5 or 4 stars they have on their roster. They have Caleb Downs, who's probably the best player in all college football, at least what some people say. I think the kid's really good. So as of right now, Ohio State's favored by 1.5 points. So, interesting. I mean, that would sort of make sense since it's at Ohio State. And So yeah, I don't really know who I would pick in this game here. I think I would lean towards the home team just a little bit, just because it's at Ohio State just a little bit, but I generally don't know who's going to win the game. I mean, they're going to be both really good teams, so do a little coin flip, see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a good game regardless. I don't think I'm not expecting some type of blowout. I mean, if there is, then holy cow, one of the teams needs to get their shit together and figure it out. But yeah, all right. You know what? I was going to talk about some of these other games that are going to happen the weekend, but I'm just going to read them off because I feel like I've been rambling on a little bit too long here. So we got Sunday games of South Carolina versus Virginia Tech, and then we got Notre Dame versus Miami, and then on Monday we have TCU versus North Carolina, which is Bill Belichick's debut as the North Carolina's head coaching, as his era has begun at North Carolina. We'll see how North Carolina looks with Bill Belichick, and it'll be kind of fun to watch and see how North Carolina does this year for sure. I'll be watching it. I'll be watching it for sure. All right, so let's do a little conference breakdown here, even though I feel like I kind of did with most of the teams that I sort of talked about in the game breakdowns, but I'm still going to talk about all the Power Fours and the teams I didn't talk about. All right, so we'll start with the SEC first. This is sort of how I did it. I did like tier rankings, but the SEC I wrote down, and they're all basically the same with all the other three that I did. But there's championship contenders, there's really good / playoff teams, there's good teams that could be really good, and there's mid teams, and then there's bottom feeders. So with the SEC, I have two championship contenders. They're either going to win the SEC or, win the national championship, sort of in that sense. I have Texas and Georgia as my championship contenders for sure, and then as the really good teams, playoff teams, I have LSU, Alabama, and South Carolina as for those teams. They're going to be either really good or it could be the playoff teams. Then you have good teams that could be really good. That could be. I wrote down Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, and Tennessee as the good teams that could be really good and be in the conversation for those playoff spots as well. Then I have sort of the mid teams. They're mid. They're not going to be great. They're not going to be bad. They're just going to be mid. So they're going to be good teams, basically. I have Vanderbilt, Missouri, Auburn, and Arkansas as my mid teams. And then the bottom feeders, I wrote down Kentucky and Mississippi State as my bottom feeders. Those two teams are probably going to suck this year again. All right. As for the Big Ten, I wrote down three contenders for the Big Ten title. And they are Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. Those three are just a class of their own. I'm trying to figure out if I should really buy in the hype of Penn State this year or not. Obviously, they have Drew Aller. They have a really good roster, but it always comes back to the head coach, which I feel like we probably shouldn't. Trying to think if I'm finding the right word here, but I think he's that end all be all coach because he got them to the playoffs. But they won their first round, or they won their first game again. Or no, they beat SMU at Penn State, that first round game. They beat SMU handily, and then they got to play Boise State, which they beat pretty handily. Once they got to play Notre Dame, they kind of got back to their old ways of they can't really beat the big dog schools like Notre Dame and all the really good teams. So it'll be interesting to see and how Penn State kind of does this year, if it's all hype or if they're actually really good and they can actually win a national championship. As for the really good playoff teams, I have Illinois and Michigan as my really good playoff teams. Some people are really buying into this hype of Illinois. I haven't really done a whole lot of research on Illinois. I guess they're ranked in the top 15, so I mean they have to be somewhat pretty good if people really think that. But this is all based on speculations of people's, knowledge and just based off of what they have and what they have now, and so we'll see how it all plays out. Then I have for my good teams that could be really good, I have Nebraska, USC, and Washington. I think they could be a really sneaky good team in the Big Ten that could be fighting for a playoff spot at the very end of the year. I'm buying in on this Washington team this year in the Big Ten. As for my good teams but not great tier, I have Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, UCLA, Wisconsin, and Michigan State as for my good teams but not great. So I mean, I thought about putting Indiana in the good teams that could be really good, but I don't know, and maybe I should. But I'm you know what? I'm leaving them there. I'm just going to leave them at the good teams that could, but not great. Even though I feel like they have a quarterback that's actually going to be like really good. He's from Cal. And some people are saying that Indiana actually might be better than they were last year. But I'm just going to put them there so that way I don't get burned from last year. Because obviously everybody was thinking that they could be really good, but they actually wasn't because they got their butts handled by Notre Dame, even though the score may only say they only lost by 10 points. We all know Notre Dame was simply better that day. We all knew that Notre Dame wasn't going to really lose to Indiana. So as for the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, I wrote down Maryland, Northwestern, and Purdue. All those teams aren't going to be very good this year, and I feel sorry for your team if you're on this list. All right. As for the Big Ten, or not the Big Ten, as for the Big 12, man, this one was kind of tough. So I wrote down 3 teams for the championship contender ones. Obviously, we've seen some of these teams already play week 0. If Iowa State, Kansas State, and Kansas already have played their I tried not too much to base off what I saw from week 0 to sort of mess what I had or change my opinion on what some of those teams were going to be anyway. So I wrote down Arizona State, Texas Tech, as Iowa State as championship contenders to win the Big 12 and obviously be a playoff team. And then I have Kansas, Baylor, and K-State also to be a really good team that could be a playoff team that could be fighting for a Big 12 title spot as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out with the Big 12. As for the good teams, I have BYU. I almost wanted to put BYU in the really good team, but since they don't have the quarterback anymore that got in some legal trouble and had to leave the school, I put them as a good team just for now. And maybe things can change. This entire list for the Big 12 can change within a week. Houston, right, because I have BYU, Houston, TCU, and Cincinnati. Like TCU could easily show a really good performance against UNC, get moved up to the really good teams that could be a playoff team. Or like Kansas, for example, I thought they kind of looked good. I almost want to put them back in the good team because they only scored they scored all their points in the first half and didn't really score again in the second half. They only watched the first half of that game, so because I knew they weren't in really too much jeopardy against Fresno State. And then for the mid teams in the Big 12, I wrote down Colorado, West Virginia, UCF, Arizona, and Oklahoma State as sort of all my mid teams. I didn't really know who to put in the bottom feeder because I don't really know who's going to suck because I feel like these all teams can all beat each other. If I had to pick like one or two, I'd probably say like Oklahoma State and UCF are probably the bottom feeders. Maybe West Virginia because obviously West Virginia's got a new head coach. So does UCF. They both brought back their old coaches from the past, Rich Rodriguez from like the early 2010s, and then Scott Frost is now back at UCF. So these are all sort of my mid teams. I just don't really know who's going to be the worst team in the Big 12. I'm just going to say they're all sort of in the same group. So, all right, as for the ACC, I have for my championship contenders in the ACC, I have Clemson and Miami. Those two are ahead of the field by a pretty good margin. And as for my really good teams that could be in the conversation to compete for an ACC title, I have Louisville, SMU, and Georgia Tech. And when I off all those three, SMU got to the championship game last year, so I put them in that category for sure. I put Louisville in there just because I looked at their over-under, and I thought, I'm just going to put them in there. And because who's the head coach at Louisville now? Is it Jeff Fromm? I feel like they've always had a pretty good offense. So maybe if they could actually get another good offense again this year, maybe they'll actually be pretty decent. And then obviously put Georgia Tech there just because they're going to be a sleeper. I think some teams are going to, kind of sleep on Georgia Tech. So yeah, I feel like those 5 teams are really going to really compete for the ACC title this year. As for everybody else, I put them in the same category as good/mid teams. So North Carolina, Florida State, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Duke, Boston College, Virginia, and Syracuse are all in the good/mid team. So I don't know what to really make any of them. As for the bottom feeders, I wrote down Wake Forest, who got a new head coach from Washington State, and Stanford, who lost in the week 0 game against Hawaii. So those are your bottom feeders for the ACC. Oh, wait, did I write down Cal? Where's Cal? Oh, my God, I forgot about Cal. Jeez Louise, how did I forget about Cal? All right, we're going to put Cal in the We're gonna put Cal in the bottom feeders. Sorry, Cal. Forgot about you. I can't believe I forgot about Cal. I mean, some people forget that Cal and Stanford are in the ACC. They're like, wait, Cal's in the Stanford in the ACC? And you're like, yeah, they're in the ACC. You forget sometimes. All right. You know what? Let's do the playoff prediction real quick and sort of wrap up today's show here. All right. This could be tough. This might take me like 10 minutes to figure out who are the 12 teams that are going to make the playoffs. All right, we're going to do in no particular order. I'm not going to seed these teams. I'm going to go Texas is in the playoffs. I'm going to go Ohio State's in the playoffs. And then I'm going to go Penn State makes the playoffs. And maybe if I do like a graphic later today, I'll put it in the episode of a graphic saying of all the seedings and rankings. But as of right now, I'm just recording. And I'm just going to write down teams. All right, so I'm at 3 teams. I'm going to say Oregon makes the playoffs. I'm going to say that Georgia makes the playoffs. All right, so what am I at? Am I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? All right, I'm at 5 teams. I'm going to say that Arizona State makes it back to the playoffs. I'm going to say that Clemson makes the playoffs. All right, so what am I at now? I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I'm at 7. So I only got about 4 spots left, right? Something like that. All right, we got, let's see, who should I do next? Okay, so I got those 3. I'm going to say, how many SEC teams do I have in? I have 2. I'm going to say South Carolina makes the playoffs this year. This definitely won't backfire at all. All right, so I'm at 8. All right, number 9, I'm going to say, let's see. I got to write down here. I'll just get this one on the way because I got to pick one G5 school. I'm going to say Boise State makes the playoffs. And then, all right, so I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9. So I got 3 more spots left to make the playoffs. I'm going to say, give me Texas Tech to make the playoffs. 10 right there. Give me LSU to make the playoffs. Give me the last team to make the playoffs, Washington, will make the playoffs this year. Why not? Yeah, actually, you know what? Let me scratch out Washington. I'm not gonna say Washington. Let me get it like a Big Ten team in here. Because how many SEC teams do I got? We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's plenty. That's plenty of. And how many Big Ten teams do I got? I got 1, 2, 3. I got 3 Big Tens. You know what? Yeah, give me 1 Big Ten team. Or should I throw in an ACC school? What ACC school would I even put in? I'm trying to think. Should I put in Miami or SMU again? I mean, Miami kind of blew it last year. They probably should have made the playoffs, but they blew it. Who's the last spot? Who's the last spot going to be? Who is the last spot going to go to? Screw it. Give me Michigan. No, I was going to say Michigan, but you know what? Here, I'm going to say it. USC makes the playoffs. Boom. That's my prediction. All right, I'm going to read them off one more time. These are just my predictions. These are what I think is going to make the playoffs. If this doesn't come true, oh well. I'm not holding myself to the standard. But if I get all these right, good on me. I know ball. All right, so I'm going to say Texas makes the playoffs. Ohio State makes it. Penn State makes it. Oregon makes it. Georgia makes it. Arizona State makes it. Clemson makes it. South Carolina, Boise State, Texas Tech, LSU, and USC. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, perfect. And then as for your championship game, I'm going to say that give me Texas versus Penn State as your championship game, and that Texas wins it all. Boom. Texas wins it all. Boom. There you go. That's my official, unofficial national championship pick as of right now. I'm sure I'll probably change my pick sometime again later this year as we watch football, and I'll be like, you know what? This team might actually win it all. So as of right now, I'm just going to say that Texas beats Penn State in the national championship game, and Texas reclaims themselves as the best team in all of the land. And the SEC finally gets the national championship game, or finally wins the national championship since I think there was some crazy thing that they haven't won a Natty's in 3 years, which is kind of crazy. No, yeah, that sounds right. All right, so I think that's going to be it for today's episode. I appreciate everybody, if you've made it this long with my college football preview, I appreciate it. If you would like to hear more from the Tweet Show Podcast, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the audios of all the platforms that you typically listen to on. If you do listen to it on audio, make sure you subscribe to Spotify, not YouTube, but to YouTube, but we'll get there in a sec. To Spotify, Apple, or whatever audio service that you typically listen to on. Tell a friend about the Tweet Show Podcast. And make sure you subscribe to the Tweet Show Podcast on YouTube as well. Follow us on all the socials, on Twitter. We don't have Instagram, but we do have TikTok. So we have the two main ones, Twitter and TikTok so far. Those are the two main ones you want to make sure you go follow. And otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. So like I said, go subscribe, tell a friend about the show, and I will see you guys next time, which will probably be next week, recapping most of the college football games. So it'll be fun. Hopefully I get to recap it all with you guys. So like I said, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.